So here's one I have been waiting for quite a while. This is a formerly lost film. This is Hollywood 90028 in an incredible new edition from Grindhouse releasing. This film has got an interesting history. I'll say up front, I think everything in this package, to me, was more interesting than the film itself. I really did not like the film, but I love everything except that is the feature film, if that makes any sense. So we're going to talk about this, but just know going in that I didn't really care for this movie. So the movie is directed by Christina Hornisher, who was an experimental filmmaker, friend with filmmaker Tom DeSimone, and only did the one feature. She did this film. It was shot in 1970. It was released in 1973 with an ad campaign that made it look like really kind of not what it is. It was reissued in 1978 by a very unscrupulous distributor who wanted to cash in on the series of the Hillside Strangler murders that were going on around LA at that time. So they retitled the film The Hollywood Hillside Strangler with some really garish poster art and tried to make it look like it was about these killings that were currently happening. And then in the early 80s, it was reissued as Twisted Throats. And it's really not a horror movie. That's the thing. This film stars Christopher Augustine, who was the drummer in Every Mother's Son, the band that did Come On Down to My Boat Baby. And he plays a cameraman in Hollywood who does stag loops, peep show loops. So we see him going to work in this big warehouse with his little 16 millimeter camera, and he's just shooting, a woman doing her thing for a stag loop. And he's not thrilled with this. He wants to get other work outside of this. He's really kind of a quiet, troubled guy who occasionally, when being intimate with a woman, decides to strangle her. And it happens a couple of times in the movie. So the majority of the movie isn't about that, though. The majority of the movie is Augustine kind of bumming around LA and in his old beat-up car, looking to get other work, falling for or developing a relationship with one of the actresses in these peep show loops, and sort of slowly going on like this no strings involvement affair with her, walking along beaches and doing other things like that. So it's a very contemplative kind of movie. It's a very heady kind of film, but not a lot goes on in it. That was my beef with it. I didn't really know what to expect from this movie. To me, first of all, the transfer looks unbelievable. To me, the greatest value of this movie is seeing an LA that doesn't exist anymore, is seeing these old artist collective murals that were painted on buildings that are long gone, and seeing the old storefronts, and seeing inside an old adult bookstore, and seeing inside an old movie studio, and all these kind of things, and seeing people's apartments and the clothes and the cars and just the world around you. That was all interesting, and again, looks unbelievable in this transfer. But the story I just thought was dull. It's really much more of an experimental or art film than it is a narrative film. And I guess at the time, the only way distributors could find to really sell this thing was to say it's a horror movie. It's a sleazy horror movie. And it really isn't. So if you're going into this thinking you're getting a sleazy horror movie, you're going to be disappointed. I don't know if that's why I was disappointed or if it was just a little too loose for my sensibility. A lot of people love this. This set is filled with people shouting accolades from the mountaintops about how great this movie is and how it's a masterpiece and how it's brilliant. I didn't find that, but I found everything surrounding it. Like, I really like this set. I just didn't like the movie itself. So let me tell you what to expect from the goodies on this set, because Grindhouse releasing, they take a long time to put things out, but they do an incredible job at what they do, and they do not leave any stone unturned with extras, and they also put Easter eggs on the discs, which nobody does anymore. I think there's at least 6 Easter eggs between the 2 discs in this set. So I look at my notes here, a whole lot of walking, talking, and driving with occasional nudity and violence, but mostly an art wank is what I said here. That's just me. So extras, you get a commentary by Mark Edward Hoyk and Heidi Honeycutt, which is very interesting. You get a commentary by Sean Langerick on the locations of the film. That's really interesting. I've never seen a commentary like this, because all it is him watching the screen and saying, okay, this is where this location is. This is what it is now. This is what it was then. This is the history of that building. This is the history of that business. This is how we figured out where that location was. I thought that was really cool. Again, if you're a fan of LA or old LA, this really is a movie worth grabbing and looking at, because it's, again, a snapshot in time. It's not tremendously shot on studio sets or anything. It really is the world that it was. At one point, they're talking about, on the Langerick commentary, figuring out when the movie was shot or when a certain scene was shot. they're in the opening scene of the film. Our hero or anti-hero is in a woman's apartment, and she has records sitting around, and you can see a copy of the first McCartney solo album. So he said, so we know it's after this date because that's when that came out. So that's really cool. You get alternate X-rated cuts. It's 3 scenes with short inserts, not really explicit, that are 9 minutes total. It's lower quality, but there was, I guess, a slightly racier version of this film initially. When you say X-rated, people think hardcore. It's really not that. It's very, very brief. I almost didn't notice the difference. There's The Cameraman outtakes. The film originally was shot under the title The Cameraman, and it's 3 minutes of pristine quality outtakes of, again, our hero driving his car, getting out of his car, parking his car, walking down the street, some POV shots driving. It's set to, and you see the slates, which is cool because you can see the date that was filmed and you can see the original title. That's 3 minutes set to the score. You get the original Hollywood 90028 trailer, which again, it's 2 minutes and it really makes it look like a more aggressively active movie than it is. You get the Hollywood Hillside Strangler trailer, which is 35 seconds. You get the Hollywood Hillside Strangler radio spot, which is 60 seconds. You get still galleries, publicity gallery, 20 images, drive-in asylum newspaper gallery, which is a great site if you don't know, a great publication. They do some fine work at Drive-In Asylum. It's all original newspaper ads for when this film played, and it's 5 minutes, and it's played over music, and they have little dates of showtimes. And this movie played in one form or another into the late 80s, which is insane for a movie that was shot in 1970. I cannot imagine. It was usually used to fill out the bills. So people would see ads in a newspaper of just the titles of the films, and maybe they'd heard of them. Maybe they just wanted to go to the drive-in and see horror movies all night and make out. So this was often like thrown third in the night. So it's just like, hey, you've got your 2 movies. If you want to leave, you paid your money, you can leave, you can stay. I just imagine people in like 1987 going to see what they think are a couple of horror movies, and they get this movie from like the cusp of the end of the 60s of a guy walking around a lot. I would have loved to have been there to witness that. You get a Christina Hornisher gallery that is 20 images. You get cast photos that are 14 images. Cover art by Jerry Martinez. They did this on the Impulse disc, and it was really cool. It's 66 images, and it shows you all of his initial sketches and basically the stages that got to the new cover art that he did for this. It's really fascinating, really cool. Adult Bookshop. This was really funny. So it takes 2 stills from the scene where our hero walks into an adult bookstore, and then takes them as freeze frames from those moments in the film. And then you can highlight individual book and magazine covers. And when you do that, it brings them up full screen and shows you like a full-size scan of those original publications, which is just funny and fascinating. Grindhouse releasing previews of coming attractions. I'm just going to read you the list because these are all films that Grindhouse has either put out or is working on putting out. Impulse, Death Game, Scum of the Earth, Bogard, Love is Deep Inside, Ice House, Family Enforcer, Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, Massacre Mafia Style, Gone with the Pope, Pieces, The Beyond, Cat in the Brain, An American Hippie in Israel, Corruption, The Swimmer, The Big Gun Down, I'm Not Done, I Drink Your Blood, The Tough Ones, and The Passion Pit, which I think is an alternate title for the Ice House. You get a bonus film. You get the Twisted Throats version of this film, which is 85 minutes, and the full-length version of the movie is 87. So it's like 2 minutes shorter, lower quality, has that Twisted Throats title. And the Twisted Throats title, it's one of those things they would do when they would do alternate titles for films where the opening credits of the movie play as they normally would, and the music plays, and all of a sudden the music cuts out, and you're just looking at a silent still of that alternate title that they just cut into the print. And then it continues with the music playing. I didn't really notice much in the way of differences in anything. There wasn't anything new in the film. I think it was just slightly re-edited, and it's rougher quality, looking sort of like if you were watching like an old Something Weird disc or tape. 2 Easter eggs, and I'm not going to tell you what they are, but there are 2 Easter eggs that I could find. There might be another one on the disc 1. Disc 2, so this is 2 Blu-rays. Disc 2 is the extras disc, where we have interviews. We have Hollywood Dreams, the making of Hollywood 90028. That's 68 minutes, and it's really good. You get Christopher Augustine at the New Beverly from 2022 being interviewed. That's 38 minutes. That's really good and funny. Tom and Tina, The Early Years. It's a 25-minute interview with director Tom DeSimone about his memories of Christina Hornisher, with a lot of photos and stuff about their relationship in school and after school and working together on things and stuff like that. Christina Hornisher short films. 4 by 8 equals 16. 4 times 8 equals 16 is 3 minutes. The Sun is Long, 6 minutes. And on the Sixth Day, 5 minutes. Sister of the Bride, 21 minutes. And that was sort of like an educational film that she wrote from later in the 70s. Los Angeles Here and Gone, 4 minutes. This is really cool. Split Screen, with shots from the movie and the best they could do to recreate those shots now in motion. So you can see the car driving down the street, looking at all the storefronts, what they look like now, and then some are static shots too. 2 Easter eggs that I could find on that disc. And then you get also a CD soundtrack of the Basil Polidoris. Yes, Basil Polidoris, who went on some really big stuff. This was an early score for him. Full score, excellent quality, a really good score. 17 tracks, 40 minutes, kind of funky and cool. So now I'll show you the package. Again, I didn't care for the movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed everything else about this. It's really kind of funny. So there's the new cover art, which is really cool. Slipcase, sort of soft-sided slipcase. Slipcase slips to reveal the original poster artwork or press book or something, which is really salacious and does not represent the movie very well at all. There are murders in this movie, but it's really kind of not what this movie's about. Front and back, you get the Hollywood 90028 soundtrack, which looks like a cool little soundtrack album cover, front and back with the track list and the images on the disc. Really good soundtrack, which I believe has never been released until now. And it's not one of those lame things where they just pull the music in an effects track, or they just pull the audio from the movie when there's music. It's the actual, like, from the master tapes. It's pretty cool. So the case she opens to reveal a booklet, which again is a hefty book with a lot of photos and a lot of writing on the film. You get the 2 discs that sort of one tucked above the other. You get the feature disc, you get the extras disc, and then the reversible cover art. So you've got the original poster or the new art there. And golly gosh, was this a really good set. I love what Grindhouse does. Again, it's one of those things where I don't love all the films that they release, but I really love the fact that they do release it. There are people who really love this movie, people who have seen it in screenings in LA who are really passionate about it. And to get a set like this for it is really cool for them. So your mileage may vary, but available now from Grindhouse Releasing is Hollywood 90028, aka the Hollywood Hillside Strangler, aka Twisted Throats.